Part 42. Hong Kong movies, I can see the loyalty value, I am not panicked at all. Author, Ban Wanqing Buletin Liang. Chapter 411. Just when the others were getting impatient, Arthur moved his feet and his fist followed him, and he threw a straight punch towards John's head. John was not to be outdone, and dodged the punch with a flick of his head. He put his right fist directly next to his ear to block Arthur's next punch. His long legs made full use of his advantage, and he kicked Arthur's inner thigh with a kick of his foot. The huge force made Arthur stagger, and he almost fell, and he quickly stepped back a few steps to distance himself. But John took advantage of the situation and ran towards Arthur, and his right fist hit the opponent's head with great force. Arthur relied on his agility to dodge and punch John's tied left arm. Humph! John groaned. Despicable! Despicable! If I were you, John shouldn't have let him go. He is really a mean person. Everyone in the mobile team was talking angrily. For them, Arthur obviously violated the principle of fair competition, which really made them a little angry. Then John began to fight back, and when Arthur just retracted his fist, he pretended to attack Arthur's chin with his right fist. Arthur was fooled and raised his arms to block John's fist. But John's fist was just a feint, and his right foot in leather shoes kicked directly at Arthur's injured abdomen. The huge force made Arthur retreat continuously. The mobile team who were watching the show were stunned, and they opened their eyes wide and couldn't speak. Ahem, maybe this is the killer's fighting method, attacking the opponent's weakness. The young master scratched his head and forced an explanation. Now it seems that tying arms and taking painkillers are meaningless, Bezo rolled his eyes and said. Everyone. No matter what everyone thought, the fight continued. He was standing and fighting just now, but now he had rolled to the ground. The two began to fight, but they were indeed the top killers, with Brazilian grappling, Israeli Krav Maga, karate. The mobile team could even see the shadow of Chinese wrestling and ground boxing in their fight. Everyone smacked their lips, admiring their learning ability. It seemed that they knew a little bit of any fighting technique. Only after long-term and strict training can one integrate the fighting techniques of various countries. I always feel a little awkward. Ahua shook his head. Well, it's a little different from what instructor Feng Yuxiu taught us. You see, this move should be eyeball chopping, Bezo said, making movements with his hands. Hey, monkey stealing peaches, there's such a big gap, but John didn't even take action. This Arthur is so stupid, pull his hair, John has such long hair, it's a pity not to pull it. Yes, that's it, John. Push against his wound. The voices of the mobile team became louder and louder, and even blushed as they began to teach on the spot. At this time, John grabbed Arthur's left hand with his right hand and bound his legs with his feet. Arthur's right hand grabbed John's hair, and his legs began to push up hard, trying to get rid of John's suppression. Hearing the words of the mobile team, the two suddenly felt that this competition was boring. How about? It's boring. The two looked at each other and said at the same time. The two were stunned, let go of each other, and stood up to tidy up their clothes. Hey? Why don't you fight? That's just the beginning. Our instructor Feng Yuxiu said that it is not only about the winner, but also about life and death. That's right, you guys are more or less anticlimactic. Everyone in the mobile team said dissatisfiedly. John rolled his eyes, only a fool would be a monkey show for you. Arthur, let's go, I'll take you to see the boss, get in my car. Hearing this, Arthur walked into the rain side by side with John. The mobile team was stunned. What's going on? Have you developed feelings for each other? Do you feel a sense of sympathy for each other? Ah, don't talk too much in the future. Now there's nothing for everyone to see. The young master shook his head and said something sarcastic. Damn, wasn't it you who said you dug your eyes just now? No, that was what Bezo said. The mobile team walked towards the vehicle in twos and threes. Boss, this is Arthur Bixia. John came to Li Qing and introduced him respectfully. Li Qing looked at Arthur from top to bottom. He was not tall and seemed to have tattoos on his body from the collar. Arthur Bixia, I know you. You have completed 113 assassin missions in these years and killed 256 people in total. Most of them were wealthy people, child abusers, rapists, and human traffickers. You are very good. Li Qing said while looking at Arthur with a smile. Arthur's pupils shrank. He didn't expect that the leader of the gang in front of him would know so much. But what Li Qing said next shocked him even more. The wound on your chest was caused by a bodyguard shooting you while trying to kill a cannibal. It was only 1 centimeter away from your heart. The knife wound on your right arm was caused by a fall from a building while trying to hunt down the leader of a human organ trafficking organization. The scar on your right cheek was caused by a dagger slashed by a pedophile gang leader while trying to hunt down a gang leader. Your left knee. In order to win Arthur's heart, Li Qing also did a lot of homework. He carefully studied Arthur's assassin mission. At this time, Arthur had no expression on his face, but his heart was indeed extremely shocked. He did not expect that the man in front of him knew all that he had done. He always killed those evil people who were hated by both humans and gods, such as Vaughn who just died. Vaughn was a famous cult leader and also engaged in human trafficking. He constantly lured some young women from Eastern Europe to the United States through his church. Then he sold them to wealthy people in the Middle East or wealthy people in the United States as sex slaves. The fate of these women can be imagined. The reason why I admire you is that you have your own principles and bottom line in doing things. This is in line with the principles of our new world. I am now seriously asking you, do you really want to join our new world? Don't worry, if you say you don't want to, I will let you leave safely. Li Qing smiled and looked at Arthur seriously. Other people in the New World also know that their eldest brother is very honest and will let you leave safely if he says he will let you leave safely. But the fact that you can leave the New World base safely does not mean that you can leave the United States safely. Fortunately, Arthur was also moved by what Li Qing said and let go of the little bit of grudge in his heart. Mr. Li Qing, don't worry. Since I agreed, I won't regret it. Arthur said seriously. John Wick next to him also breathed a sigh of relief. He also hoped to work with Arthur Bixia. Li Qing smiled and nodded, okay, from today on, you are our brother. A group of people smiled and surrounded Arthur when they heard Li Qing's words and greeted him. Li Qing took this opportunity to look at the entry above Arthur's head, Arthur Bixia, loyalty value 50%, proficient in, firearms expertise, short blade application expertise, English, Thai, Spanish expertise. Loyalty value can be increased to 100%, and the number of times it can be used, 3. Li Qing directly raised the loyalty value to 100%, and the number of times it can be used increased by 1. It seems that the entire New World group has involved many lives during this period. Hong Kong movies, I can see the loyalty value, I am not panicked at all. Author, Ban Wanqing Buletin Liang. Chapter 412. Oh, Brother Crow, it's really a pity that you didn't go. Good guy, you haven't seen the showdown between the two top killers, have you? The young master said with a slightly showy expression. When Crow heard this, he immediately opened his eyes wide. Oh my God, is there such a good thing? Tell me about it. Hey, you promised me last time that you would take me to that special bar at 26 Connor Street, but you haven't fulfilled it yet. The young master smiled and hugged the crow, and began to murmur about the last time the crow promised to take him to a striptease bar. It's easy to talk, you tell me first. The thing is so sexy, let me tell you, Brother Crow, and the two of them fought like shit. A group of people watched the young master pulling the crow slowly out of the villa, all with black lines. Especially John and Arthur. They don't look very good. Also, I felt very uncomfortable after being watched for a long time like a monkey show. It was getting late, so Li Qing asked them all to go back to the apartment to rest, leaving only Zhang Dongxiu alone. Dongxiu, how is the recent arms trading business? During this period, Li Qing spent most of his energy on New World Hotel, and for other businesses he only took a look at the information sent every month. Brother, the arms department is very stable. Ermao's arms inventory is almost exhausted. General Dimmock is afraid of something happening and has not continued to supply supplies. But now we have our own arsenal in Ermao, and we can still supply goods in a while. Zhang Dongxiu thought for a while and said. As Li Qing's right-hand man, Zhang Dongxiu knows a lot about various businesses in the New World so that he can explain to his elder brother Li Qing at any time. Li Qing frowned. You mean if we open up new channels, the current supply of goods will be a bit stretched, right? Well, according to the current production capacity, if it is supplied to Southeast Asia, there will be no problem. Zhang Dongxiu thought for a while and said. Li Qing leaned his head back on the sofa, closed his eyes and began to think. There was no way he would not accept the free benefits provided by the beautiful country's military. But the problem now is that New World's arsenal in Ermao doesn't have enough production capacity, and it's impossible to acquire the arsenal in a short time. Where will you go with such a big order? Do you really want to go to Daimao? Li Qing kept tapping his fingers on the sofa. Although there was still some time before beautiful country's next move, he didn't want to take advantage of outsiders with such a large order. Others didn't know it, but Li Qing knew very well that the Shanren War would last for 10 years. This was not an ordinary business that ended in 1 or 2 transactions. Tisk tisk. At this time, Li Qing felt that sometimes happiness came too suddenly and he was unable to catch it, which was really uncomfortable. Moreover, the beautiful country, which is responsible and established, does not allow the use of American weapons, which must be made by the Soviet Union. Mud, who doesn't know that you want to support a puppet regime? Li Qing patted his head. He couldn't make things easier for outsiders, so he might as well go home and meet his old family. After all, this matter is different from other matters. It is better to come forward on your own. In addition, there was a call from Hejiang a few days ago. He Min wanted to come to the United States to see Li Qing, so he might as well not let her come and go home to deal with some things. Early the next morning, Li Qing called his old brothers in Gotham City over. The news about Vaughn's wife being blown to death due to a burst gas pipe was playing on the TV. Now that New World Hotel has entered a stage of steady development, I plan to go home. Ayo, you and the mobile team are optimistic about the Gotham stronghold. Ajin, Crow, please pay attention to what is going on in New World hotels across the beautiful country. If you have any difficult questions, please contact Alex and Gianna directly. John, Arthur, you two perfect the killer business of New World Hotel as soon as possible. Gishan still keeps an eye on maritime smuggling. Except for Crow, all the other boys echoed. Brother, I'll go back with you. Crow glared at Zhang Dongxiu next to Li Qing and muttered softly. Humph, why are you going back? Aren't you just enjoying yourself in the beautiful country during this time? Zhang Dongxiu looked down at the crow and hummed softly. I'm used to eating bread. I want to eat rice, but that's not possible. Crow said unconvinced. Okay, Crow will come back with me too. Li Qing thought for a while and said in a deep voice, if Crow's character wouldn't let him go, he would follow and sneak onto the plane. By the way, why haven't you seen Yuri during this time? Li Qing then remembered Yuri, his #1 arms dealer. Brother, Yuri is currently expanding his business in South America. During this period, there is a huge demand for arms in South America. Gao Jin said softly. Li Qing nodded. Last time, Li Qing set off a big firecracker at the Liberia airport and almost sent Andre to the west. In order to prevent Andre from retaliating, Li Qing directly asked Yuri to stop the business in Africa. Unexpectedly, Yuri was also restless and went directly to South America to develop business. We need him to come back after a while. After all, he still needs to do a lot of arms business in the Middle East. Li Qing thought to himself, after all, professional things are better done by professionals. Li Qing explained the affairs of Gotham again and let his brothers perform their duties. In the afternoon, Li Qing took Wu Wu, Zhang Dongxiu and others directly onto the flight from Gotham to Hejiang. He Min had something to do there, so Li Qing decided to go to Hejiang first. It was already around 5 o'clock in the morning when we arrived in Hejiang. As soon as Li Qing and others got off the plane, they felt the familiar temperature and the slightly salty sea breeze. The brothers of the New World in Hejiang are all led by He Min and have been waiting for a long time. Brother Qing. As soon as Li Qing left the airport, he saw He Min waving at the roadside. Brother! Brother! Hong Mao and Lu Mao, who had been sitting in Hejiang, came forward with their brothers and called out respectfully. Haha, good brother. Li Qing stepped forward to say hello. Although both of them have dyed their hair back now, Crow and Zhang Dongxiu are still used to red hair and green hair. Li Qing stepped forward, hugged He Min, and patted her back. Well, not bad, not thin. Li Qing looked at He Min's eyes carefully. I hate it. I'm not losing weight. You just dislike me for being fat. He Min patted Li Qing gently and joked. The meaty ones are the best. Li Qing whispered in He Min's ear. Desing, let's go, get in the car. He Min pulled Li Qing into the car. It was just dawn in Hejiang, and there were not many pedestrians on the road. A black Rolls-Royce was driving on the road, followed by several black commercial vehicles. Local Hejiang people know that this is a New World car just by looking at the sign. Even if there is a car in front of them, they will consciously slow down and give way. Since Hejiang officially returned to China a year ago, with the support of his hometown, New World Group's industries have affected all aspects of Hejiang. Therefore, New World is very popular in Hejiang. Xiaomin, why are you so anxious to see me? Li Qing looked at He Min in his arms and said. When He Min heard Li Qing ask about this, he suddenly straightened up and said with a frown, Brother Qing, I heard the news that my hometown will reissue licenses for the spinach industry in Hejiang. This time there are 6 licenses in total. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Hong Kong movies, I can see the loyalty value, I am not panicked at all. Author, Ban Wanqing Buletin Liang. Chapter 413. Li Qing straightened up after hearing He Min's words and frowned, huh. The time was much earlier than expected. If Li Qing remembered correctly, the license plate was reissued in his hometown in his previous life around 2006. But the significance of that time was obvious, which was to break the He family's monopoly on the Hejiang spinach industry. The current spinach industry in Hejiang is very different from the one dominated by Mr. He and his family in the previous life. Now the New World and the He family are divided. Li Qing didn't understand the significance of the redealing of cards in his hometown for a while. A look of confusion flashed across He Min's face, which was noticed by Li Qing, who had keen senses. What's wrong, Xiaomin, what can't you tell me? Li Qing rubbed He Min's smooth back through the silk fabric. Brother Qing, my dad found me. He talked with me for a long time, and it means that it is best for New World and the He family to jointly obtain 6 licenses, He Min said with a slight embarrassment. She also knew that her man had always been at odds with her father. Although she herself was dissatisfied with her father, he was her biological father after all, so she couldn't help but want to say something nice in front of her man. Li Qing gave He Min a funny look. The proportions are divided like this. He proposed 3 or 3, He Min hesitated, but I didn't agree. My bottom line is 4 or 2. How can your cheap father-in-law be so sure that I can get all the licenses? Li Qing squeezed He Min's little hand. He Min shook his head and expressed his confusion. Li Qing's eyes flickered. It seemed that his cheap father-in-law also had expert guidance, otherwise he wouldn't be so sure that he could get all the licenses. But to be honest, if he could get all the licenses, Li Qing wouldn't even want to give one to old man He. Seeing that Li Qing was silent, He Min thought he was angry. Brother Qing, are you angry? He Min bit his lower lip and asked softly. She was very torn between her man on one side and her father on the other, so she was anxious to meet Li Qing. How could I be angry with you over this? Li Qing smiled and let He Min rest his head on his chest. What I'm thinking is, this is how the gambling industry in Hejiang should develop next. By the way, Xiao Min, is there anything going on with the Century gambling ship? Li Qing casually mentioned the boat gambling thing, trying to divert his woman's attention. Everything is normal on the gambling boat. In the past, most of the gamblers were from East Asia, but now the majority of gamblers are from Southeast Asian countries. He Min raised his head and said. Since New World established an autonomous province in Java, various powers in Southeast Asia have also seen the true strength of New World. Coupled with New World's many years of credibility, the Century gambling ship has taken the lead in Southeast Asia. Unless the Century is fully booked, it has always been the first choice for the wealthy. Li Qing nodded, he had expected this result. The car soon arrived at Li Qing's villa in Hejiang. The boys moved their luggage into the villa and left. He Min sent the cook home early and gave her a holiday for the past 2 days. Brother Qing, sit down for a while and I'll prepare breakfast for you. He Min kissed the corner of Li Qing's mouth. Li Qing did not refuse. To be honest, the meal on the American flight was really not very tasty, and since he got off the plane at 5 in the morning, he was really hungry. Hearing the clanging sounds coming from the kitchen, Li Qing couldn't help but walk towards the kitchen. Li Qing was leaning at the door of the kitchen, looking at He Min in an apron with a smile. He didn't expect that a person like the eldest lady could actually learn to cook. Hey, where did the cook put the bowl? The smile on Li Qing's face suddenly froze when he heard this. Okay. He admitted that he overestimated He Min. He Min wore an apron and bent down to look for bowls in the cupboard. Her straight buttocks curved into a charming curve, and she could faintly see the shape of her small panties under her white silk nightgown. Li Qing stepped forward and hugged He Min's waist, and their positions matched perfectly. Ah, He Min exclaimed and turned to look at Li Qing. Don't make trouble, wait until breakfast is finished. Both of them knew this kind of thing tacitly, and He Min himself would ask Li Qing to hand over the public food after breakfast. Hey, aren't you just for breakfast? Li Qing said with a smile. After saying that, he picked up He Min and walked towards the bedroom upstairs. Oh, eggs, fried eggs. And fire. Li Qing looked at the fried eggs, curled his lips, and turned off the heat. At this time, He Min put his arms around Li Qing's neck with peace of mind, and obediently let him carry him upstairs. The two of them kept tossing until the afternoon before falling into a deep sleep. It was not until about 3 o'clock in the afternoon that they were awakened by He Min's phone call. When the tired He Min heard the sound of her cell phone, she closed her eyes and started to touch the bedside table. Hello, how are you? The lazy voice made the other person stunned for a moment. Xiao Min? I'm your dad. He Min opened his eyes instantly, woke up, straightened up and asked, Dad? What's the matter with you? Ahem, is Li Qing back? Do you want to come to my place for dinner tonight? Li Qing was also awakened by old man He's call. He Min took the phone and asked her man with her eyes. Li Qing looked at He Min's pleading look and nodded with a smile. Well, okay. Let's go eat there tonight, He Min replied softly. Okay. 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 I'll have someone prepare the Dongxing ban that just went out to sea today. You guys can come and try it. After several good ones in a row, Everyone can hear the joy of old man He. When He Min hung up the phone, Li Qing curled his lips and said, I still vaguely remember the first time I went to your house for a family dinner. I caught Eastern Star Spot a few years ago. Is it rich this time? I changed it to one that just went out to sea. He Min knew that Li Qing was having a little temper, and started to bring up old things again, covering his mouth and laughing sweetly. But she forgot that she was not wearing any clothes on her upper body. She was leaning on the backrest while answering the phone and the quilt fell off her body. Li Qing saw He Min's chest shaking with charming force. He couldn't help but stand up and press her down. Hey, then prepare to repay your father's debt and your daughter's debt. Yeah, no, it's after 3 in the afternoon and it's too late. He Min Jiao smiled. 2 hours is enough. Father, Li Qing is going too far. It's already 7 o'clock in the evening and he's still not here. He obviously doesn't take you seriously. In the He family's mansion, He Guang complained angrily. He still remembers the way the guy named Crow sat in the car and held out his middle finger to him. Li Qing even cheated the He family of so much gold, and now all his properties have been taken back by his father. Brother, you'd better speak politely. That person is my brother-in-law. He Long sat on the sofa next to him and said solemnly. Although his relationship with his sister He Min was average, he still wanted to hug Li Qing's super thick legs. Humph, if it weren't for He Min, then it would be you. He Guang said with contempt. That's enough. If you two argue again, get out of here. Old man He was already upset because Li Qing was late, but now his two sons were arguing in front of him, which really made him feel upset. Hong Kong movies, I can see the loyalty value, I am not panicked at all. Author, Ban Wanqing Bulletin Liang. Chapter 414. When He Guang and He Long heard that old man He was really angry, they immediately shut up and said nothing. Sir, the lady is here. The butler walked in and said softly. Come on, come with me to the door to greet you. Old man He thought for a moment, stood up, and walked out first on crutches. Then He Long followed closely behind. He Guang reluctantly walked at the end. Who are the big shots? I have to go and greet them. He Long in front heard He Guang's words and couldn't help frowning and looking back at him. What are you looking at? He Guang said provocatively. He Long smiled and shook his head and ignored him. Tisk the Rolls-Royce stopped just in front of the mansion, and Li Qing got out of the car with He Min. As soon as I got off the bus, I saw old man He walking down the steps at the door with a smile. Oh, my dear husband, I haven't seen you for a long time. He looks thinner. Mr. He looked Li Qing up and down. I have to lament that time flies by. Unexpectedly, in just a few years, the once low-ranking Hong Kong gang in Hong Kong has become the overlord of the gang. I also secretly regretted that I had lost my sight and underestimated Li Qing's abilities. Li Qing rolled his eyes inadvertently. He used to be called Li Ziazi, but now he is called Xiangziu. This is such a big change. Haha, Mr. He is still strong and strong. It seems that there is no problem with his blood pressure. Li Qing's words caused the smile on old He's face to pause. He Min, who was holding Li Qing's arm next to him, couldn't help but slap Li Qing's ribs and whispered in his ear, Brother Qing, let him order. Li Qing smiled. For He Min's sake, he couldn't go too far. I just brought you some cordyceps. You can make tea for yourself. Li Qing pointed to the trunk. Haha, we are all a family. What are we called, Mr. He and Uncle He? When old man He heard this, he climbed up the pole, hoping to get closer to Li Qing. Mr. He, I'm used to it. Li Qing smiled lightly, seeing through old man He's intention. The atmosphere suddenly became awkward. He Long quickly stepped forward and said, Brother-in-law, long time no see. Xiao Long, it's been a long time since I last saw you. Last time you went to Gotham, I happened to be on vacation on the West Coast. Li Qing was very kind to He Min's younger brother. In his opinion, this was the only one in He Min's generation who could be regarded as a talented person. The atmosphere eased slightly with He Long's intervention, and He Guang next to him saw a trace of resentment in his eyes. Then the He family welcomed Li Qing and He Min in. Li Qing passed by He Guang and glanced at him casually. "Haha, Mr. He's dog is here too." Li Qing's words made old He's face twitch. He Guang's face turned red with anger, but he still lowered his head and did not dare to reply. He was completely different from his sarcastic attitude when they met last time. Li Qing also stopped talking and did not provoke He Guang's nerves again. It was already getting late now, so I simply went to the table, cooked the dishes in order, and several people started to have dinner together. Unlike the He family and his son, Li Qing had a huge appetite. After all, he had not eaten for a day and had gone through strenuous exercise, so he was really hungry. He Min was the same, eating by himself and constantly helping Li Qing pick up the vegetables. Although Old Man He and He Long were full, Li Qing kept eating and they were too embarrassed to put down their chopsticks. They waited until Li Qing finished eating, put down his chopsticks, and wiped his mouth before they put their chopsticks down at the same time. After the meal, the group entered the tea room and began a formal meeting. Old Man He poured a cup of tea for Li Qing himself. "I guess my husband-in-law already knows about the reissuance of the casino license." Li Qing took the tea, took a sip gently, and nodded. "I already know about this. I don't know what my virtuous son-in-law thinks." Old Man He stared at Li Qing, trying to read something from his expression. Li Qing frowned and said, "What's your opinion?" "I firmly support my hometown's decision." Old Man He looked at Li Qing's helpless look and sighed. "Son-in-law, tell the truth, can you give us half of the 6 license plates?" Li Qing's face slowly darkened, and He Min next to him glanced at Old He and his face didn't look good either. He Min had already told Old Man He that an equal share was impossible, but he didn't expect him to mention it again now. "Mr. He, there is something you don't know whether to say or not." Li Qing put down the teacup and said in a deep voice. "Son-in-law, tell me. What I hate the most in my hometown is D-class. You don't think your family doesn't know about this dog of yours and the 8-faced Buddha in Thailand, do you?" Li Qing glanced at He Guang with disdain. "If the He family declines like this, He Guang will be responsible for most of it. This incident has already ruined the favorability of his hometown." When Old Man He heard this, he clenched his cane tightly. Since this incident, he could clearly feel the indifference towards him from his hometown. Especially after his official return a year ago, he has been keeping his tail between his legs. Countless times late at night, I regretted not taking the same route as my hometown with the Huo family, otherwise the He family would not have ended up in this situation. The reissuance of license plates in his hometown this time was obviously aimed at him. Although it nominally involves the New World, anyone with a discerning eye knows the attitude of his hometown towards Li Qing. You can tell something from the attitude of your hometown towards the Xiangjiang gang. Now the Xiangjiang gang has been suppressed to the point of being out of shape. Only the New World is safe, and of course this is also related to Li Qing's transfer of black business to Southeast Asia. But I have to say that Li Qing does have face in his hometown. Old He regrets it now. If he had a good relationship with Li Qing now, the He family would not have reached this point. Fortunately, He Min is Li Qing's woman now, and there is still some affection between them. Alas, the family is unlucky, the family is unlucky. Old He glanced at He Guang with a little complaint. He Guang, who had been sitting on the sofa in the distance, pursed his lips tightly and said nothing. "Brother-in-law, you must help us this time no matter what you say." He Long stood up and bowed deeply to Li Qing. Li Qing was silent for a while. "I can only say that I will do my best and leave it to fate. I can only try my best to do this, but I can't guarantee success." Old He and He Long were happy. As long as Li Qing spoke, the old family would definitely consider it. Thank you, He shook Li Qing's hand and thanked him again and again. Li Qing waved his hand and walked out of the He family mansion with He Min. In fact, Li Qing and Ming Jing had the same thoughts. They could speak for the He family, but if the He family wanted to get the license this time, they had to pay more. The He family was trying to attract Li Qing's attention, and Li Qing was also calculating the He family. After all, the He family's casino in the beautiful country was still very good. New World only had one license in the casino, which was too little. You have to know that the world's top gangs have their own casinos in the casino, and Li Qing also wants to get a piece of the pie. Hong Kong movies, I can see the loyalty value, I am not panicked at all. Author, Ban Wanqing Buletin Liang. Chapter 415. Watching Li Qing leave in the car, old man he restrained the smile on his face. He knew that Li Qing was not easy to deal with. With only He Min's relationship, Li Qing could not try his best. He Min was also an outgoing girl. He asked her so many times, but she still refused to help him get half of the license. Humph, I wonder how long this Li Qing will be proud of himself. He Guang's angry voice came from the side. Old man he looked up at him and shook his head. In his heart, this son of the eldest wife was useless. However, He Long, who he did not pay much attention to before, has performed well during this period. Especially tonight, Li Qing obviously had a good attitude towards He Long. In addition, He Long and He Min were brothers from the same mother. In the future, he would look at him differently. Long, come with me. Old man he looked at He Long and said with a smile, then turned around and walked into the house without even looking at He Guang. He Long's mind moved, and he secretly clenched his palms. His father had never spoken to him so kindly. It seemed that his choice was right. Okay, father. He deliberately didn't look at his eldest brother's face, which was as black as the bottom of a pot. To be honest, it was this eldest brother who had ruined his own business. Now he only relies on a hotel to survive. It seems that his father doesn't intend to care about him. The whole big house was implicated by him. The big house used to be the strongest, but now it has become the weakest. He Guang looked at the backs of old man He and He Long with resentment, cursing in a low voice. At the same time, He Min, sitting in the Rolls Royce, looked unhappy. She was deceived by her father again. She clearly told him that it was absolutely impossible to have a 3-3, but she didn't expect him to bring it up in front of her man. Li Qing looked at He Min's unhappy face, smiled and hugged her into his arms. Why bother? You grew up beside him, you don't know who he is. He Min leaned her face on Li Qing's chest, listening to his strong heartbeat, and her mood slowly calmed down. Even though she knew that her father could sacrifice anyone for the family and the business, she was still a little depressed. Brother Qing, are you really going to speak for the He family? Li Qing knew that the He family He Min was talking about had already excluded him. Li Qing thought about it carefully. I think so. In fact, Li Qing had already planned in his mind that the He family would get at most one license, and this license would require the He family to exchange it for the casino in the gambling city, otherwise he would not give him a license. As for his side, he guessed that his hometown would not give him all of it. But Li Qing was confident that he could get most of it, and as for the rest, even if his hometown gave it to him, he would not take it. Because he knew that what his hometown wanted to see was competition, not monopoly. He Min didn't think much about it, and fell asleep directly on Li Qing's chest. Only Li Qing held He Min in his arms, looking at the bright lights and nightlife of Hejiang outside the car window, and whispered, China Hejiang. Li Qing did not stay in Hejiang for long. After all, he still had something on his mind, and he had to go to Hong Kong as soon as possible to contact his family. Not only the license, but also the arms order. The next morning, he took Crow and Zhang Dongzhou back to Hong Kong by boat. Li Qing originally thought that only the brothers of Hongsheng and New World would come to the dock to pick him up, but he didn't expect to meet most of the big bosses of the Hong Kong gangs at the dock. Brother Cheng. Master Cheng. Big Brother. Boss Li. Immediately, several names came with the sound. Haha, Big D's wife, Mr. Zhang, Brother G, Smiling Tiger, long time no see. Li Qing greeted them one after another, and muttered in his heart, guessing the purpose of this group of people. Humph, Boss Li, you've been enjoying yourself outside for a while. We'll come to the dock to find you, Big D's wife said with a little jealousy. Haha, Boss Li, you've become handsome again, Zhang Sheng said with a laugh. Boss Li, I miss you so much, Smiling Tiger performed exaggeratedly. Master Qing, hee hee, long time no see. Brother G was more humble than the others. He had no choice but to talk to him every week at the Hungmen headquarters. Every time, he would get a new injury before the old one healed. He asked to resign from the position of leader every day, but now no one took over the position of leader of Hongxing. Ahem. Zhang Shen, the leader, cleared his throat, and his expression became extremely serious. Boss Li, you saved Hongjiang first, and then saved countless compatriots in Java. We all admire you very much. After the Java incident, Li Qing became famous, and the whole Hongjiang underworld was proud of him. This was his first appearance in Hongjiang after the Java incident. So all the well-known gang leaders in Hong Kong came to meet him. Zhang Shen led the way, followed by Big D's wife, Brother G, Smiling Tiger, and a large group of younger brothers. Everyone raised their hand gestures to represent their status. Zhang Shen, Big D's wife, Brother G, Smiling Tiger, the leaders in the front row all made the gesture of 489, Dragon Head. The ones behind were 438, Hall Master, 415, White Paper Fan, 426, Red Stick. Everyone bowed their head slightly to show respect to Li Qing. Li Qing not only saved countless Chinese in Java, but also made the Hong Kong gang famous. Now the whole Southeast Asia looks up to the Hong Kong gang, which can be regarded as extending the life of the Hong Kong gang. So these people are very grateful to Li Qing. It is impossible for such a group of gang members to not alert the police. The police surrounded the dock to prevent the gang members from causing trouble. Damn, this is the first time I have seen such a scene in all my years as a cop, an old police officer sighed as he looked into the distance. Seeing hundreds of big guys saluting the same person was unthinkable more than a decade ago. Don't you see who it is? This is Li Qing. He saved more than hundreds of thousands of Chinese in Java. Hey, Li Qing's life is worth it? Don't mention it, I want to salute him. The things he did saved countless lives, and he deserves respect. Me too. The surrounding police were infected by this scene, and some of them saluted Li Qing. At the beginning, there were only a few, and gradually almost all the police began to salute. The scene was very strange. The gang members and the cops saluted the same person at the same time. This kind of thing has never happened before. Li Qing was moved. He extended his thumb and pinky finger, bent his index finger, middle finger, and ring finger and placed them on his chest, and bowed his head slightly to return the greeting. Brothers, Li Qing thanks everyone here. No one would have thought that the Xiangjiang society, which had fought for a piece of land, would salute one person at the same time. I wish the new world a prosperous military fortune. This word is not a trivial one. It first appeared in Xietiao's rewarding virtue in the southern Qi dynasty of my country. Zhang Sheng led the way, and everyone else shouted loudly. The members of the New World watched all this excitedly, looked at their boss with reverence, and shouted along. All the cops were also a little excited, and looked at Li Qing with admiration. This sentence resounded throughout the dock and floated far away. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Hong Kong movies, I can see the loyalty value, I am not panicked at all. Author, Ban Wanqing Buletin Liang. Chapter 416. Li Qing did not stay at the dock. After thanking them one by one, he returned to the villa with Gang Sheng and others. After all, he could not be very high profile in the current situation. In the car, Gang Sheng held Li Qing tightly, and the pride in his heart was beyond words. She was shocked by the scene just now. Her man was respected by so many people, and she was also proud of it. Brother Qing, how long will you stay this time? Gang Sheng looked at Li Qing with a dazed look. These days, Li Qing has been running around outside, and it is good to stay in Hong Kong for 2 months out of the 12 months of the year. It shouldn't be long. Li Qing glanced at Gang Sheng with a little apology. Since the expansion of the New World, he has been spending less and less time with Gang Sheng in Hong Kong. Especially for Gang Sheng, a woman who hangs her whole body and soul on him, he has an indescribable sense of guilt. I came back this time mainly to meet my family. Li Qing smiled and then said, how about you go to the beautiful country with me? Gang Shen's face was happy, but then he frowned and shook his head. Forget it, I can't always rely on you to me, and someone needs to manage the industry in Hong Kong. As Li Qing's woman, she felt that she couldn't be so selfish, and men should still focus on their careers. Li Qing kissed Gang Shen's forehead lovingly. Among all her women, only Gang Shen was the most considerate. Is there anything going on in Hong Kong during this period? Li Qing and Gang Shen leaned against each other and asked softly. Gang Shen thought for a while. There is nothing going on in the New World industry. But the various societies are getting worse and worse. Brother Qing, what they did today, I'm afraid. Gang Shen didn't say anything else, she knew that Li Qing knew it very well. Yeah. Li Qing said softly, Zhang Sheng led the Hong Kong society to do this, not just because of some things Li Qing did overseas. These gang leaders are all in the business of profiting. They will definitely need help from me later. They are doing this just to make it easier for me to ask for help in the future. Now the Hong Kong gangs are not sustainable. To be honest, it will be even worse in the future. My hometown will not allow a Hong Kong with underground forces to exist. The current strategy is just to boil the frog in warm water. Seeing that Li Qing did not speak, Gang Sheng thought about it and suddenly remembered something. By the way, Brother Qing, it seems that Shooting's cousin has been released from prison. Shooting brought him to visit me at home last time. Li Qing was stunned when he heard this. Well, who? Yadong. Yes, it seems to be Lin Yadong. Li Qing frowned. Yadong was his younger brother in Stanley Prison. It was about time for him to be released from prison. Where is Yadong now? It seems that he has been following Kyandan in Southeast Asia, managing the smuggling business. It seems that he has returned to Guangdong to visit relatives recently. Gang Sheng thought about it and replied. Li Qing nodded. It seems that Kyandan has arranged Lin Yadong's affairs properly. Crow, wait for Yadong to come back and let him come to see me, Li Qing said to Crow in the front row. After all, he is an old brother in Stanley, so he still has to meet him, at least he can't let him go down the same path in his previous life. In fact, if Li Qing didn't mention it, Lin Yadong wouldn't dare to do it now. After all, the entire New World Bandi is notoriously cruel. Whoever touches this thing will die. Li Qing and Gang Sheng returned to the villa to rest for a while, and then Li Qing took Crow and others to visit Mr. Huo's manor. Mr. Huo, I haven't seen you for a long time, I miss you so much. As soon as Li Qing entered the Huo's manor, he saw Mr. Huo Dong waiting for him. Little friend Li, we finally meet again. It's been nearly 2 years since we last met. Huo Dong smiled at Li Qing, who was walking over. Li Qing looked at Mr. Huo Dong's slightly trembling body, and his heart was a little sad at this time. Mr. Huo Dong looked much older than 2 years ago, even the white hair on his head was few, and his hand with the cane was slightly trembling. It was completely different from the mental state when they joined forces to fight SLS 2 years ago. Li Qing hurriedly took a few steps, holding Mr. Huodong's hand with one hand and supporting him with the other. "Sir, you are still so energetic," Li Qing suppressed the bitterness in his heart and said with a smile. "Haha, no. I can't refuse to admit that I'm old. This place is not so bright, and my legs and feet are not flexible." Mr. Huodong pointed at his head self-deprecatingly. "Let's go in and talk." Although the temperature in Xiangjiang was suitable, the wind at this time was a bit stinging. Li Qing hurriedly walked into the villa with Mr. Huo. The two sat on the sofa. Huodong threw his crutches aside, and looked at Li Qing with a smile. "Not bad, my friend is more energetic than before." Huodong was not talking about the body, but Li Qing's temperament. The previous Li Qing gave him the feeling of being sharp, and his eyes flashed with terrifying hostility from time to time. Now Li Qing has the demeanor of a true superior, with a sense of authority without anger, and is more stable than before. "The last time we talked, you were still in Java. I didn't expect that such a long time has passed. But I still have to say that you did a great job in Java. If I were 20 years younger, I would definitely go there to help." Mr. Huodong did not hide his admiration for Li Qing. "Alas, what a pity. If the next generation of my Huo family had half of your ability, I wouldn't be afraid of having no successors." Huodong didn't know what he was thinking, and sighed deeply. "The Huo family is full of talents, I can't compare." Li Qing smiled and shook his head, saying modestly. Huodong also smiled and waved his hand, not continuing the topic. "You came back this time for the casino license, right?" Before he asked, Mr. Huo blurted out. Li Qing touched the bridge of his nose. "Haha, not only this matter, there is another matter to communicate with my hometown." "Oh," Huodong sat up straight, listening attentively. Li Qing told him everything about the accidental resolution of the hijacking incident, the proactive visit of the American military to express gratitude, and the shortage of arms on his side. After listening to Li Qing's narration, Huodong sighed at Li Qing's strong luck, and unexpectedly won the favor of the American military directly. Now there are two people in the top 3 who have a good impression of Li Qing. As long as Li Qing doesn't commit suicide, the future situation will be very good. Haha, you can actually contact the military directly for this matter, and you happen to know the person in charge of this area now." Huodong said with a hint of mystery. "Oh," Li Qing frowned. Mr. Huodong said he knew him. The only person the military in his hometown knew was probably. "Are you talking about General Qi Gang?" Huodong smiled and nodded. "He is now the deputy director of the National Defense Logistics Support Department of the military in his hometown." "Ah," Li Qing exclaimed in surprise. He did not expect General Qi Gang to be promoted so quickly. "Come to think of it, I have to thank you for this." Huodong smiled and pointed at Li Qing. "Me?" Li Qing pointed at himself in confusion. "Hong Kong movies, I can see the loyalty value, I am not panicked at all." Author, Banwanqing Bulletin Liang. Chapter 417. The evacuation operation in Java has greatly improved the reputation of my hometown. Qi Gang, as the person in charge of the evacuation, has naturally been reused. Huodong looked at Li Qing seriously and said. Li Qing also lamented how clever the arrangement of fate was, what a coincidence. But Huodong doesn't think so. He has always believed that Li Qing is a person with great luck. As long as he is good to him, he will be favored by luck to some extent. Ahem. Huodong's strong cough caught Li Qing's attention. Li Qing frowned and looked at Huodong, who kept coughing. "Mr. Huo, are you infected with cold?" Huodong took the water handed over by the butler and took a sip to suppress his coughing. "It's an old problem." He waved his hand nonchalantly, telling Li Qing not to worry. Li Qing looked at Huo Dong with concern. He vaguely remembered that Mr. Huo Dong died of illness in 2006, but he didn't know the specific illness. Little friend Li, I like to make friends all my life. I have many friends, but you are the only one I have friends with throughout the year. Huo Dong looked at Li Qing seriously. Haha, I didn't expect that at my age I can still chat with young people. Is it because I am young at heart, or you are mentally mature? Haha, it's all there. Li Qing also found it interesting. As the saying goes, if you don't protect the moon when you are 70 years old, and if you don't protect the sky when you are 80 years old, maybe I will go there one day. Huo Dong laughed at himself. Don't say that. I think you will have no problem living to be 100 years old. Li Qing quickly comforted him. Huo Dong straightened up and looked at Li Qing seriously, and said in a slightly pleading tone, one day, I hope that my little friend will take care of the Huo family. If the descendants of the Huo family fail to live up to their expectations, just help feed them. Li Qing's eyes couldn't help but feel a little sour in his somewhat patronizing tone. What are you talking about? You will definitely live a long life. Huo Dong stepped forward and held Li Qing's hand. Little friend, promise me. Li Qing felt Mr. Huo Dong's warm hands tremble a little. Don't worry, I can do it. Huo Dong patted Li Qing's hand happily. He knew that as long as Li Qing promised, he would definitely do it. This little friend has the same temperament as me, and he will definitely do what he says. Let's go have lunch. I knew you were coming, so I specially asked people to prepare Eastern Star spots. I heard that old guy in Hejiang said that you like to eat Eastern Star spots, so I specially sent people to go out to sea to get a strip. Huo Dong smiled heartily, picked up Li Qing and walked towards the restaurant. Li Qing, with a black streak in his head, kept scolding old man when did I say I loved eating Eastern Star banner? He never expected that when he went to his house for dinner yesterday, he ate most of the Eastern Star spots because he was hungry. Old man he thought he liked Eastern Star spots. Mr. Huo Dong was very talkative during this lunch, which lasted from 12 noon to 3 p.m. Huo Dong talked with Li Qing about his business experience, the problems he encountered, and how to solve them. It was said to be a chat, but Li Qing could feel that Huo Dong was imparting some life experience to him. This moved Li Qing very much. He also learned a lot through Mr. Huo Dong's life experience. My little friends, we must always remember that we are Chinese. We must remember this wherever we go. You did better than me. There are countless people alive in Java. I heard that people there now want to build a shrine to you. Country, only a country has a home. Mr. Huo Dong patted Li Qing on the shoulder sincerely. Li Qing nodded seriously and patted his chest. Seeing the tiredness on Huo Dong's face, Li Qing said goodbye at the right time. Huo Dong sent him outside the manor until he saw Li Qing's car disappearing before leaving with the help of the housekeeper. Li Qing looked through the rearview mirror and looked at Huo Dong, who was obviously much older. He felt indescribably sad. Let's go home, Li Qing ordered softly. In the car, Wu Wu and Zhang Dongxiu noticed that their elder brother was not in a good mood. They looked at each other, shrank their shoulders and did not dare to speak. Li Qing returned to the villa smelling of alcohol. When he entered the door, he saw Jian Gangsheng sitting on the sofa happily, waiting for him to go home. It's better to be at home. Li Qing casually kicked off his leather shoes and walked towards Hong Kong students wearing socks. Hong Kong stood up quickly and patted him angrily. It's cold on the ground. After saying that, he picked up the leather shoes on the ground and went to get him slippers. He knelt down and put on Li Qing's slippers, and whispered a little distressedly, drinking so much wine again. Li Qing sighed, it's so difficult to have a close friend in life. Li Qing glanced at the gentle Hong Kong student, picked her up and walked upstairs. Oh, don't make trouble. Xingxin and Shooting have been waiting for you for a long time. Why don't you go to them first? Hong Kong Sheng said generously. Li Qing glared at Hong Kong Shen. "You are a big lady, why are you so generous? I'm not going anywhere today, I'm just here." He also did this on purpose, to let everyone know that Hong Kong Shen was the real wife. Hong Kong Shen was not stupid, of course he knew why Li Qing did this, and he looked at Li Qing with emotion in his heart. The daring Hong Kong student took the initiative to move his mouth to kiss Li Qing, and instantly received a fierce response from Li Qing. Bang! The bedroom door was closed and was not opened until the next day. The next day, General Qi Gang, who was far away in the capital, was sitting in his office. He frowned and looked at the report. "Why are there so few orders from North Africa recently?" "Minister Qi, North Africa has just received a batch of European arms," the secretary reported carefully. He knew that the figures would be even worse. Not only did the number in North Africa decrease, but military orders in Central Asia and South America also decreased. Qi Gang frowned as he flipped through the report. China's arms have not been able to open up the overseas market, which gave him a headache. He couldn't figure out why China's arms, which were cheap, durable, and suitable for all kinds of extreme weather, could not open up the overseas market. Ding-ling-ling! Qi Gang frowned when he heard the ringing of the mobile phone in the drawer. His number was confidential, and it was impossible for someone familiar to call him during working hours. He opened the drawer and looked at the phone. The name on the screen made him happy. "Xiao Lu, you go out first." Qi Gang waved his hand, and Xiao Lu hurried out of the office. He didn't get scolded this time. Minister Qi has been worried about military orders these days, and his hair has fallen out in clumps. "Brother Li." Li Qing's hearty laughter came from the phone. "Hello, General Qi." Qi Gang was unhappy when he heard it. "Call me brother." "Brother Qi." "When did you come back?" Qi Gang asked with a smile. "Just arrived the day before yesterday." The two chatted on the phone for a long time before getting to the point. "Brother Qi, you may not believe it, but I have a large arms order from the United States. Alas, my strength is limited and I can't take it." Qi Gang was stunned when he heard the large order from the United States, and he didn't even hear what Li Qing said next. The United States, arms order. Hong Kong movies, I can see the loyalty value, I am not panicked at all. Author, Ban Wanqing Buletin Liang. Chapter 418. Brother, did I hear you correctly? Beautiful country. Qi Gang touched his head and asked in disbelief. This is really outrageous. Doesn't the beautiful country sell arms? Why do you have to buy it from Li Qing, an arms dealer who is not a beautiful nationality? Li Qing also heard the hesitation on the other side and confirmed again, yes, order from beautiful country. What's going on? Qi Gang asked doubtfully. Li Qing explained everything about his unintentional solution to the hijacking incident, preventing the plane from crashing into the hexagon, and the gratitude of the American military. Qi Gang was speechless. He felt that he was lucky enough to be promoted to this level at his age. He didn't expect that Li Qing's luck was so outrageous, and he casually let the beautiful country owe him a big favor. Qi Gang thought about it carefully and decided that it would be better to talk about this kind of thing face to face. In this case, Brother Li, I won't see you outside. You come to the capital and we will talk face to face. Now Qi Gang really couldn't spare the time to go to Xiangjiang, so he had to ask Li Qing to come to the capital. He also wanted Li Qing to get to know his boss. After all, if this thing comes true, it will greatly promote the internationalization of Chinese arms. Li Qing was stunned for a moment when he heard this. Huh? Going to the capital? Is it appropriate? Although he knew his hometown's attitude towards him, Li Qing was not sure whether going to his hometown so blatantly would have any impact. What? Are you not from China? Is there any place in China that you can't go to? Don't worry, let me see who dares to talk too much. Qi Gang said slightly angrily. A small number of people at the top were not clear about Li Qing's attitude, but Qi Gang knew that the military saw everything Li Qing did, and his superiors expressed their appreciation for Li Qing in front of him more than once. What he said represented the attitude of the military to a certain extent, which was why Qi Gang had the confidence to speak. Li Qing thought for a while. Okay, since Brother Qi asked me to go, then I will go. Take a look at the great rivers and mountains of the motherland by the way. Okay, okay. Brother Li, I'll sweep the bed and wait for you. Qi Gang laughed. The two chatted about home affairs again before hanging up the phone. After Qi Gang hung up the phone, his face became serious. This matter is not a trivial matter and he must tell the minister as soon as possible. After thinking for a moment, he picked up the landline and said, Xiao Lu, make an appointment for me and see when the minister is free. After saying that, he hung up the phone. Li Qing on the other side put down the phone and also laughed. Beijing, I really want to go take a look. Hong Kong student, help me buy some tickets to the capital, and I will take you to see the Great Wall in your hometown. Li Qing said to Hong Kong Sheng, who was busy in the kitchen. Hey? Jing Cheng, Brother Qing, are you going to take me to Jing Cheng? Hong Kong Sheng asked happily as he stuck his head out. She had heard of Tiananmen in the capital since she was a child, but had never seen it before. She didn't expect that Brother Qing would take her to the capital this time, which made her feel a little excited. Yes, I have something to interview. I just want to take you on a trip to see the great rivers and mountains of our motherland. Li Qing took the plate from Hong Kong Sheng and placed it on the table. Me too, I haven't been home for many years. I don't know if anyone still knows me. Hong Kong student's mood was a little low, and she thought of her hometown. Well, I'll take you back to see if I get the chance. The bergamot eggplant you make is getting more and more delicious. Li Qing felt that his woman was depressed and quickly changed the subject. After hearing Li Qing's compliment, Hong Kong Sheng covered his mouth and smiled sweetly. I asked you why you drove Wu Wu and Dong Xiu away this time and didn't let them eat here. When Li Qing heard this, he rolled his eyes helplessly. I didn't even have enough to eat. I only used 2 chopsticks every time and ate them all. If nothing else, it's Zhang Dongxiu's general appearance. He's the one who licks the plate every time, always looking like he doesn't have enough to eat. Ha ha. Minister, that's what happened. Qi Gang rushed over to report to his boss immediately. Tisk tisk, this Li Qing is really a talent. I really want to recruit him into the army. Qi Gang heard what the minister said and was about to say something when the minister waved his hand and said, what a pity, this guy is already a warlord. Then the minister shook his head regretfully. Qi Gang, you are fully responsible for this matter. Remember, when conditions permit, a win-win situation must be achieved. The minister gave the instruction directly. Yes, I promise to complete the mission. Qi Gang's eyes flashed with joy. If cooperation can be reached this time, the relationship between the military and Li Qing will go further. Early the next morning, Li Qing took the 3 excited people on a flight to the capital. Brother, this is my first time to Beijing. I heard that the roast duck in Beijing is good, I want to try it, Crow muttered as soon as he got on the plane. It's also my first time. Alas, I want to go see the Forbidden City, Zhang Dongxiu said angrily. Although his face was calm, his heart was full of curiosity about the capital of China. At this time, Li Qing closed his eyes and leaned on the back of the chair, muttering silently in his heart, it's the first time in this life that I went to the capital. Why do I feel a little shy about being close to home? Hong Kong Sheng held Li Qing's hand and looked at the white clouds through the window, wondering where his mind was wandering. It wasn't until a few hours later that Li Qing took the 3 of them off the plane and looked up at the blue sky and white clouds, but his mood calmed down. In a voice that only he could hear, he whispered, we're home. At this time, Qi Gang was already waiting eagerly outside the airport. This time he was wearing casual clothes. After all, it was more appropriate to wear casual clothes in public. Secretary Xiaolu beside him held up a sign and kept looking around. The sign said, "Welcome Mr. Li Qing to Beijing." The sign was big, and Li Qing and others saw it as soon as they passed the checkpoint. Li Qing smiled and greeted him. Qi Gang was also very happy to see Li Qing, and the two hugged each other. "Welcome. Brother Li. Brother Qi, how are you? Is this my sister-in-law?" The two exchanged pleasantries before walking out of the airport and getting on Qi Gang's special car. In the car, Qi Gang couldn't help but sigh, "We haven't seen each other for 2 years, right? Time flies." Yes. Time flies. Both of them have grown a lot in the past 2 years. Needless to say, Qi Gang can now be regarded as a high-ranking official. Li Qing's temperament now also carries the majesty of a superior, and it is obvious that he is incomparable to ordinary people. "By the way, Brother Li, how are my dozens of soldiers?" Qi Gang has always been concerned about his dozens of big-headed soldiers, all of whom were the elite he selected in the army back then. "Yes, some children will run away," Li Qing said with a smile. "Some people have indeed married and had children in the local area. After all, they have no relatives in China. They are used to living in the autonomous province. They fall in love with local Chinese girls and get married." Qi Gang was speechless for a moment. "By the way, Brother Qi, when I mention this, do I need your help?" Li Qing said to Qi Gang with a smile. "Why are you being polite to me? Just say it directly." You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Hong Kong movies, I can see the loyalty value, I am not panicked at all. Author, Ban Wanqing Buletin Liang. Chapter 419. Qi Gang was also curious about what Li Qing wanted to say. Logically speaking, Li Qing had nothing he could ask for. Haha, it's actually nothing. Brother Qi, you know that our autonomous province has not been established very long, and the military's military literacy is lacking, Li Qing said solemnly. Qi Gang also nodded. He had also paid attention to this point when Li Qing led the Chinese to take over a province in Java. Qi Gang also reviewed the situation himself and found that most of the armies of the autonomous province defeated the Javanese army with better weapons and equipment, familiarity with the terrain, and surprise attack strategies. Even the military structure is imitated from China's military structure decades ago. Brother, you can see that this is unusual. Sometimes he is a fan of the authorities. Now that Li Qing has taken the initiative, he must have seen the shortcomings in his army. Yes, so I plan to send some officers to come home to study seriously, Li Qing nodded. He had planned this matter for a long time, but he had been busy with the New World Hotel during this period, which delayed it. This time I came to the capital to talk to Qi Gang. Brother, this is no problem. Whether it's National Defense University, Naval University, School of Information, I can coordinate for you, Qi Gang said with a smile. Ahem, Brother Qi, I think Changshan Army Command College is good. I think I can go there to further my studies. Li Qing coughed lightly. Huh? Changshan Army Command College? That's okay too. Qi Gang fully respects Li Qing's personal wishes. After all, the West Pastry Academy in Asia is very well known in Africa. There are even several African defense ministers who graduated there. Qi Gang directly arranged for Li Qing and others to stay at the WZ Army Guest House in the capital. This is a military guest house and generally does not accept outsiders. Therefore, the environment here is elegant and quiet. It is only 1.8 kilometers away from Tiananmen Square and has convenient transportation. Brother, the environment here is good, you can rest first. As for other things, we will talk about it tomorrow. My brother will host a banquet at noon tomorrow, so we can have a good chat. Qi Gang knew that Li Qing and others were busy traveling and it was not a good day to talk about things. After making arrangements for them, he left. It wasn't until a few hours later that Li Qing and others had almost recovered. "Come on, let's go out for a walk." Li Qing looked at the three people who couldn't wait and said. The three of them were extremely happy when they heard this, and they all clamored to eat the most authentic roast duck. Li Qing and others took a taxi directly. Taxi drivers in the capital are famous for their enthusiasm. "Hey, where are you guys going?" the taxi driver asked enthusiastically as soon as we got in the car. Li Qing hadn't heard the Beijing dialect for a long time. His roommate in his previous life was from the capital, and his authentic Beijing dialect almost confused Li Qing. For a long time, Li Qing spoke with the word son in his voice. "Master, we want to eat the most authentic roast duck," Hong Kong said with a smile. The taxi driver was happy when he heard this. "Hey, I heard that you guys are visiting Beijing. Let me tell you, the roast duck in our capital is the most authentic anywhere. But I still recommend you not to go to Quanjude, it is too expensive. Dadong roast duck, Chang'an No. 1, Likan roast duck, Bianfang, are all good." Li Qing and others also found it quite interesting to listen to the taxi driver talking about the major roast duck restaurants in the capital. "It's better to go to Quanjude." Li Qing smiled and came to eat the most famous one. Let alone roast duck. After eating happily, buying a roast duck restaurant would be a matter of minutes for Li Qing. "Come on, you guys look like you're money savvy," the taxi driver said with a smile. Indeed, there is a clear difference between the clothes of Li Qing and others and the people in the capital today. In the words of the capital, these people have an international style. The journey was not boring. The taxi driver told Li Qing and others about the major places of interest in the capital, from the Forbidden City to the Great Wall, from the Summer Palace to the Temple of Heaven. Especially Hong Kong Shen, Crow, and Zhang Dongzhou listened with great interest. "Hey, by the way, you should try to be careful at night. Since last year, a group of robbers has appeared in the capital, specializing in beating people up. Now 8 or 9 people are dead." The taxi driver kindly reminded Li Qing and others. "Oh, you never caught it?" "No, this group of people commit crimes on the move, elusive and special in targeting people who are well dressed." The master shook his head, said nothing more on this topic, and directly told Li Qing and others about the history. "Until the door of Quanjude is here, 21.5, you can just give us 21. Crow took out $200 bills and handed them to the taxi driver. "Thank you, master. The extra money is a tip." The taxi driver looked at the $200 bills in his hand. This was the first time he had received such a large tip. Then he stuck his head out of the window and shouted worriedly at the backs of Li Qing and others, "Hey, I told you about the sap killer, you really have to be careful." Li Qing smiled and waved his hand back at him, indicating that he understood. "Hey, don't you have 2 months' private money?" The taxi driver then put the money in his wallet. "My grandfather used to play here when he was young, and the tall front door seemed to be next to mine." Home. A pile of dead grass. Happy singing filled the taxi. Li Qing and others looked up at the archway with the words Quanjude written on it, and walked in. A waiter came forward immediately. "Hello, who are you?" "4. Please follow me." The meal took more than 2 hours. The 4 of them finished 3 bottles of mutai, 2 roast ducks, and several dishes. Of course, it was mainly because the 3 men had big appetites. It was late at night when they walked out of Quanjude. It was the peak time for Quanjude to finish dining. The taxis at the door were full and had left. Li Qing felt a little hot after drinking. Gang Shen, with a blush on his face, suggested, "Brother Qing, why don't we walk forward? It should be easier to get a taxi in front." Li Qing unbuttoned his shirt, fanned himself, and smiled, "Let's go, We'll take a walk like the old Beijingers to digest the food. Crow and Zhang Dongzhou laughed, and the group walked forward talking and laughing. Brother Qing, let's try some dazi tomorrow? The taxi driver said that the dazi in Beijing is famous for its delicious taste. Gang Shen was fooled by the taxi driver and couldn't find his way. While in the car, he borrowed paper and pen from the taxi driver and wrote down some delicious and fun things in Beijing. Yes, big brother, I want to try it too. The chef just said that a mouthful of bean juice, a mouthful of fried dough rings, and some pickled mustard greens are simply delicious. Crow also said excitedly. Although Zhang Dongzhou next to him didn't say anything, the saliva he swallowed secretly betrayed him. Hee, okay, let's go drink bean juice early tomorrow morning. I hope I won't let you down. Li Qing raised the corner of his mouth and showed an intriguing smile. Li Qing remembered that his roommate in Beijing took him to drink bean juice for the first time in his previous life. The taste is hard to forget now. I don't know how long I walked, but I haven't met a taxi yet. The four of them drank some wine, so they didn't feel bored walking on the road. Suddenly, Li Qing slowed down his pace. He was sensitive to the fact that someone seemed to be following him from behind. Brother, someone is following us. Although Zhang Dongzhou drank a lot, he was very alert. Hong Kong movies, I can see the loyalty value, I am not panicked at all. Author, Banwan Qing Buletin Liang. Chapter 420. Yeah, Li Qing nodded. When Crow heard this, his eyes became even more fierce, and he turned around and looked behind him fiercely. I saw two middle-aged men holding steel pipes walking out of the shadows behind. One of them had his hair parted in the middle and staggered forward with the steel pipe in his hand. Brothers, please borrow some money to spend. There was a fierce tone in his tone, and then he threatened, don't make yourself uncomfortable. In fact, the two of them originally planned to sap them from behind, but they didn't expect that these drunkards were so vigilant and could spot them from such a distance. Haha, just you two kittens. As soon as Wu Yao spoke Mandarin with a hint of Hong Kong and Taiwan flavor, the two robbers looked at each other and said, haha, it looks like a big deal. The two of them thought that some of the people were well dressed and they should be wealthy people, but they didn't expect that they were still Hong Kong businessmen. The Hong Kong and Taiwan businessmen who come to the capital these days are the richest. Hey, two kittens, Zongfen glanced at the crow with a ferocious smile and whistled. Suddenly, three burly men walked out of the grass in front of Li Qing and others, holding hammers and switchblade knives. Hong Kong Sheng immediately thought of the taxi driver and the sap robber he mentioned. 5 robbers slowly walked towards Li Qing and others from two sides. The tallest of the three was half a head taller than Zhang Dongzhou. He had a lot of tendons on his body. Doing physical work. The tall man walked slowly, and under the light of the street lamp, he could see Hong Kong Sheng's face clearly. Maid, I have never seen such a beautiful woman. I want this woman, brother. Zongfen looked at Li Qing and the others with an evil smile. Don't worry, after these men are dealt with, the women will be left to enjoy themselves. Li Qing originally planned to discount the opponent's hands and leave it to Uncle Hat to deal with, but when he heard the sentence, he said coldly, Crow, Dongzhou, except for the two who are talking. Give them some fun. Wu Wu and Zhang Dongzhou nodded, and walked to both sides with sinister smiles. Zhang Dongzhou dealt with 3, and Crow dealt with 2. Li Qing took out a cigarette, lit it, and took the Hong Kong students to watch the show under the street lamp. Maid, do you think you can deal with us with 2 bodyguards? Brothers, kill them. Zongfen spoke directly, and the others rushed forward with steel rods and hammers in their hands. It was not easy for Wu Wu and Zhang Dongzhou to deal with this little thief. Basically, within 3 minutes, the 5 of them were lying on the ground crying and rolling around. This section of the road is obviously relatively remote, and no one even looked at it because of the loud noise. Maybe they didn't dare to look, so they ran away after seeing the situation from a distance. Zhang Dongzhou smiled cruelly and pulled the hair of one of them. "Hey," Big Brother said, "except for those two, you will all die." Zhang Dongzhou pointed at the other tall and middle-aged men who had their hands and feet broken and were thrown aside. Am I so scared? Even if you kill me, you won't be able to escape from the capital." Zhang Dongzhou clearly didn't believe that he dared to kill someone when he got a robber in his hands. "Hey hey." Zhang Dongzhou smiled and said nothing. He grabbed the robber's face with two big hands, one on the left and one on the right, and slowly applied force. Although the robber struggled hard, his hands and feet were broken and his struggle was useless. The expression on the robber's face became more and more frightened, and he could even hear the friction of his cervical bones. He finally knew that the strong man in front of him was not speaking cruelly, but really wanted to kill him. "No, no, let me go, please." Ka. The robber's head was twisted 180 degrees. Ba. The body with its head turned over was thrown to the ground by Zhang Dongzhou. The other gangsters looked at such a horrifying scene with disbelief. Although they all had lives on their hands, the scene of Zhang Dongzhou brutally killing their companions still scared their courage. "Ah, help! Is there anyone? Call the police. Uncle Hat, save me, save me." The screams echoed far away, but no one came, and no one seemed to call the police. The crow dug his ears in disgust at the noise, then picked up the switchblade on the ground with a wicked smile. Crack! The blade of the switchblade went back. Then he came to a gangster, squatted down, and looked at the frightened robber. "Sap killer?" And he said something rude to my sister-in-law. "It's not me, I don't have it, it's them too." Looking at the horrified look in the gangster's eyes, Crow slowly put the switchblade in his hand against his throat. Crow gently clicked the button. Pft. The sharp blade was inserted directly into the gangster's throat. Blood gushed out like a fountain, and the gangster opened his mouth wide like a fish daring to come out of the shore, but he could no longer breathe. The blood poured into his trachea, and he would suffocate to death from his own blood before long. On the other side, Zhang Dongzhou sent another gangster to sleep peacefully, although his sleeping posture was a bit inelegant. The middle one and the tall one screamed in horror. Because their limbs were broken, they kept squirming away from the body, leaving long water stains on the ground. They were so frightened that they peed. "No, let me go." "Devils, they are not humans, they are demons." Li Qing and Hong Kong Shen watched all this with expressionless faces. Li Qing threw the metal cigarette case to Zhang Dongzhou. "Dongzhou, Crow, I don't want to see their eyes, their tongues were talking nonsense just now." Zhang Dongzhou took the cigarette case and nodded with a sinister smile. Zhang Dongzhou took out a cigarette from the cigarette case, lit it in his mouth, and threw it to the crow. "Xiu'er, aren't you disgusted? Your saliva is on the cigarette," Crow said in disgust. "Get out. Get to work quickly." Crow curled his lips and took a puff, making the smoke burn brighter. He slowly walked to Zongfen. "Hey, your eyes are looking at things you shouldn't. Let me help you deal with it." After speaking, he forcefully opened Zongfen's eyelids and pressed the flaming cigarette butt hard against Zongfen's eyeballs. The shrill screams resounded far away. Wu Wu glanced at the extinguished cigarette, asked Zhang Dongzhou for another, and pressed it on the gangster's other eye. At this time, Zhang Dongzhou had used a switchblade to twist the big tall man's tongue into pieces. The poor tall man couldn't scream and could only make a sound of ah, ah. Crow dropped the blind and screaming center score, and continued to come to the big tall man to repeat his old tricks. Zhang Dongzhou and Crow exchanged positions, and the switchblade kept twisting in Zongfen's mouth. After doing all this, the two stood up and looked at the two people who were squirming on the ground. "Maid, go out on the street, you have ruined the good mood of eating roast duck." The crow was confused and stepped forward to kick him a few more times. At this time, the sound of police sirens was heard in the distance. Li Qing dropped the cigarette in his hand, looked at the two people on the ground and said, "Get rid of it." When the two heard Li Qing's words, they squirmed faster. "Unfortunately, no matter how fast we go, we can't catch up with Crow and Zhang Dongziu." The two men stepped forward quickly, one broke the tall man's neck, and the other stabbed the switchblade directly into Zhongfen's heart. "The sirens are getting closer."